Hello and good evening, and I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's episode of Album Rant. And I just gotta say, I'm really sorry for being absent last weekend. I was having a little bit of a cold, and so therefore I wasn't quite up to doing an episode. But now I feel good enough, so I'm gonna press on business as usual. And I thought I would tonight return to the world of Deep Purple. This will be my fourth episode of Album Rant on a Deep Purple album. And I could have just kept going in order and done either Made in Japan or Who Do We Think We Are, but I decided to go to a different era of the band, and I'm going to go to the Mark III lineup, and I'm going to talk about the very first album with that lineup entitled Burn, and this was their 8th studio release in total. Now, in case you're joining me for the very first time, I'm going to go backwards in time just a little bit and explain how we got here. As you probably know, they started out as an English psychedelic rock band, and their very first album came out in the year 1968. And it was just called Shades of Deep Purple. And I'm going to go ahead and say this right now. They did a lot of covers back then. Like we had a cover of Hush, we had a cover of Help, we had a cover of Hey Joe, and it was very good for what it was. I kind of wish we had more original music on that album. But at the same time, you got to cut them a little bit of slack because it was their early days and they hadn't quite found their place yet. Anyways, off of that first album, we also had numbers such as And the Address, One More Rainy Day, and the mighty Mandrake Root. And so it was a very good opener or a very good debut album, at least in my opinion. I've heard a lot of people say negative things about the debut album, Shades of Deep Purple. I kind of like it. But they came back the very same year with their second album called The Book of Taliesin. I keep saying this. Did I mispronounce that? I really have no idea, so politely correct me in the comments if I did, but it really did continue the style of Shades of Deep Purple, and I thought we had some really great numbers on that as well, such as Listen, Learn, Read On, Ring That Neck, great number. Another cover of Kentucky Woman. We had Shield, and then we had a cover of River Deep Mountain High, which was 10 plus minutes. It was very epic and progressive in scope. And man, I'm going to tell you that opening vocal segment where he keeps talking about the rag doll, I'm like, this is just bizarre. But really, once you get past that segment, it is a beast of a song. It's very fast, very heavy, very progressive, and I actually do kind of like it. Just, there's that one little segment where you're kind of like, ooh, we're kind of going off the deep end here. But anyways, the following year, in 1969, they released their self-titled album, which was simply entitled Deep Purple, obviously. Why that was their third album, why they didn't make their first album, the Deep Purple album, whatever, I don't know. But I gotta say, out of these early records, the self-titled album 1969 is probably their weakest, at least in my opinion. I mean, I do like Chasing Shadows, I do like Why Didn't Rosemary, I like Bird Has Flown, and the album closer, April, is another 10, 11 minute plus progressive number, and it does delve into classical themes, which may not be for everyone. It kind of sounds like it's from the Renaissance, but, you know, it's good for what it is. But, yeah, after that, there was a shakeup. The original lineup on those first three albums was called the Mark I lineup, and it consisted of Rod Evans on lead vocals, Ritchie Blackmore on lead guitar, Nick Semper on bass guitar, Ian Paice on the drums, and Jon Lord on the keyboards. Well, Rod Evans and Nick Semper were out, and they were replaced by Ian Gillan and Roger Glover on vocals and bass guitar, respectively. And they started off, and they released a single entitled Black Knight, and it was a total game changer. Those first three albums were really more psychedelic hard rock. Black Knight and what would follow on their next album would really be borderline heavy metal, at least planting the seeds of heavy metal, much along the lines or along the influences of Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin. And they followed it up in 1970 with their fourth studio album entitled Deep Purple in Rock. And this was the second album I ever reviewed on Album Rant, and I love it. I actually ranked it #1 on my Deep Purple album ranking video. It had Speed King, Bloodsucker, The Mighty, Child in Time, Flight of the Rat, Into the Fire, Living Wreck, and A Hard-Loving Man, and it was just awesome. It was heavy, it was fast. I loved everything about it. So then in 1971, they released another album that I've reviewed before on Album Rant entitled Fireball. And I ranked this one #2 on my album ranking video, and it was also obviously amazing and continuing those very definite heavy metal influences, or what would lay the groundwork for heavy metal. If you don't consider this heavy metal, fine, I understand that. Some people do, so I don't know what to say here. But some of the highlights from Fireball were the title track, No, 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 Demon's Eye, or Strange Kind of Woman, depending on where you live. We had The Mule, we had Fools, and we had No One Came, and we had kind of a misstep with Anyone's Daughter, but 6 out of 7 ain't bad. So then, finally, in 1972, they released what many consider to be their big magnum opus. I have also reviewed this before. It was Machine Head, and this is probably their most well-known, most popular album because it had Highway Star, Maybe I'm a Leo, Pictures of Home, Never Before, Smoke on the Water. Yep, that was on there. We also had Lazy, and the very organ-driven Space Truckin', which I gotta admit is probably my favorite song off of Machine Head. So it looked like they were really on a roll. So could they follow it up in 1973? Well, yes, mostly they did. They released Who Do We Think We Are, which was their 7th studio release, and it did have the very well-known radio hit, Woman from Tokyo, which, again, is another one of their most popular songs. Now, I gotta say this. Out of that initial Mark II era, Who Do We Think We Are is definitely the weakest album. Now, that doesn't mean it's bad. Heck, I ranked it #5 overall, so I obviously do think a lot of it. But it was a step down compared to the previous 3 albums. But we also had Mary Long, we had Rat Bat Blue, we had Super Trooper, we had Place in Line. Was that the song? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. So yeah, that was Who Do We Think We Are, released in 1973. Well, unfortunately, internal tensions were beginning to rise between some of the bandmates, specifically between Ian Gillan and Ritchie Blackmore. And Ian Gillan did finish recording the album. He did finish the tour for the album. However, afterwards, he called the album sessions quote-unquote elusive, and he decided he wanted to leave the band. Glover also left because he felt that a lot of his ideas just were not really getting through. I mean, they were writing great music, so I mean, why stop? But I kind of understand it. Also, he wants to have his turn in the spotlight. So yeah, it seems that after that, the Mark II lineup was over. Now, in 1973, Blackmore, Lord, and Paice, they had to find some new members, and they went to see a band called Trapeze, and they were very impressed with one of the members by the name of Glenn Hughes. And they initially decided that, well, at first they wanted him to join, but apparently Hughes was not fully on board at first, but after some very definite and aggressive convincing, Ian Paice eventually convinced him to join the band. Now, the thing about Glenn Hughes, he has a very high voice. Kind of sounds like Geddy Lee from Rush, or John Anderson from Yes, or Burt Shelley from Budgie. Okay, I think they sound somewhat similar. If you don't think they do, okay, but I'm just saying how I see it. And Blackmore really felt that they needed a more quote-unquote masculine voice for the band. totally understand that also. So they decided that the vocals on their next album needed to be a two-parter. They needed two lead vocalists. So they went out to recruit another lead vocalist. And they even at one point considered Jon Lord. Yes, that Jon Lord of Lucifer's Friend and Uriah Heep. Interesting. But they eventually settled on an unknown lead vocalist by the name of David Coverdale. Yes, that David Coverdale. Here I go again, Whitesnake Coverdale. So, yeah, that did happen. And so now the lineup was set. They had David Coverdale on lead vocals, Ritchie Blackmore on lead guitar, Glenn Hughes on bass guitar and lead vocals, Ian Paice on the drums, and Jon Lord on the keyboards. And according to Jon Lord, the biggest difference between Burn and the previous four albums was the way the vocals were structured, the way the vocals were recorded. Interesting take, but I totally believe him. So, so by that point, they were ready to go back into the studio and record their 8th studio album, their very first one with this lineup, the Mark III lineup, and that brings me to where I am right now, the album Burn. And this right here is the cover right there, and these are the bandmates. I am not fully sure who is who. I'm pretty sure that's Ian Paice right there, could be wrong. And other than that, I'm not totally sure. Actually, that might be Ian Paice. I don't know. I'm sure someone's going to tell me. So, unfortunately, guys, there's not really much to show here on this record. We do have an insert with some lyrics right here. And then on the back, we have nothing. And this is some advertisements for the record company. I am assuming this is an original press. It's pretty worn down, so I'm guessing it is. I ordered it online. And then over here on the back, we have the cover. We once again have the bandmates right there. Looks like they're burning. And we have some information down there about the recording of the album. We have the lineup right there with Ritchie Blackmore, David Coverdale, Glenn Hughes, Jon Lord, and Ian Paice. And so over here, we have the track list. And I'm going to try to get this focused a little bit better. This may actually be the best I can do. I feel like, we'll just keep it right there. So we come the very first song on the album from side one is the title track, Burn. And it comes swinging right out of the gate. It goes dun-dun-dun, 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 and it is just so fast and so electric and so awesome. Typically, at least during the Mark II lineup, or the lineups where Ian Gillan was in the band, Highway Star would usually open their concerts. Well, during this era of the band, Burn became the unofficial designated opener of their concerts, and it definitely rivals Highway Star. I'm not going to denigrate Highway Star or anything, because it's, again, a classic. But Burn it's definitely up there, okay? And apparently, from what I've read, David Coverdale wrote 4 sets of lyrics for this song, and they kept getting rejected by Blackmore. Apparently, Blackmore, according to some accounts, was hard to work with because the man was an absolute perfectionist. I mean, he was obviously very great at what he did, but I could see how that could be kind of an off-put to some people, or a put-off, I guess. But, yes, Blackmore said he wanted the lyrics to deal with demonology and mythology, and not typical rock lyric subject matter such as drugs, alcohol, sex, girls, playing fast and loud, etc., etc. Now that I mention that, this was actually the start of an era where drugs began to become apparent within Deep Purple. From what I understand, drugs were never really a big issue with the band during the Mark I and Mark II lineups. I mean, there were definite drinkers, but now that Glenn Hughes was in the band, he was a cocaine addict. And so, yeah, this was the start of a very brief period in the band's history where some of the members were into drugs. But anyways, getting back on task. You know, we have the sky is red, I don't understand. Past midnight, I can see through the land. People saying the woman is damned, she makes you burn by the wave of her hand. Dun-dun-dun-dun, 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 dun-dun-dun. The city's ablaze, the town's on fire, the woman's slaves are reaching hard. We were fools, we would call her liar. All I hear is burn. And man, the harmonies between Coverdale and Hughes are just completely on point, okay? They are absolutely amazing. And Coverdale does, of course, obviously sing the majority of this song, but there is a segment towards the middle, I guess you'd call that the interlude, where Glenn Hughes takes over and he has this little segment that he sings by himself. You can definitely designate between the two singers because Glenn Hughes is a lot higher and David Coverdale is very, very low in his vocal styles. But yes, it's a very, very fast song, very electric, and it just absolutely rocks. And there is a keyboard solo in the middle also, which I also really kind of dig. I mean, usually keyboards aren't really my thing, but Deep Purple always made it work, and just like Uriah Heep, they were able to make a synthesizer or an organ sound so incredibly heavy. Now, a thing about the song Burn. When Ian Gillan rejoined the band, he refused to sing it, so they never played at their concerts when Ian Gillan was in the band. When David Coverdale left and formed Whitesnake, he would sometimes perform Deep Purple covers from the time when he was in the band. So yeah, I mean, Whitesnake just packed it up a few weeks ago, I think. But yeah, for that time, if you wanted to hear this song live, you had to go see Whitesnake. Very interesting. But yes, like I said, Burn is a great album opener. It is a great concert opener. And it is one of the best Deep Purple songs ever. So then, track number 2 is Might Just Take Your Life. And I really love Might Just Take Your Life. It is one of my all-time favorites also. Ever since I picked this album up in college, I was addicted to Might Just Take Your Life. This one is a lot more, what's the word? It's mid-tempo. It's not as fast as the title track, and so that may be, kind of a put-off for some people. I don't mind it at all. I really love the rhythm to it. It has kind of a more funky, bluesy rhythm, and that is something that I really need to touch on here. Burn was while it still maintained the hard rock, heavy metal roots from the previous albums, there were some funky, soul-y, and bluesy influences that started to creep in the song structures on this album. And they would become a lot more prevalent on future albums with this lineup, but the seed was being planted on Burn, and you can definitely hear it in Might Just Take Your Life. Now, apparently, this song is about people who laughed at Coverdale and Hughes behind their backs before they joined the band. Okay, I can see where that's coming from. But yeah, I mean, why would they laugh at them? They're joining one of the greatest rock bands in history. But, some people just like to stab you in the back when you're not facing them. So yeah, but anyways, it has a very great keyboard intro. I love this keyboard intro. Don't, and it just goes straight into the rhythm and maintains that slow, mid-tempo, funky rhythm. I got more than I asked for, there ain't nothing I need, I took all till I had more, I'm always taking the lead. Then we have old man shaking dice down the street, trying to make a living somehow, where I'm really sure about getting things sorted out, and I'm getting ready right now. And I just really love this chorus. He goes, and you can't hold me, I have told you. And then of course you have Might Just Take Your Life, and I did the best I could there. I'm not really trying that much, but I'm no David Coverdale. So yeah, that is like I said, I really, really do love Might Just Take Your Life. This song was also covered by Whitesnake, at least in the early days. If you listen to the Live in the Heart of the City album, Might Just Take Your Life is covered on there, and I think that's awesome. It also appeared on the Purple album, which Whitesnake released in 2015, which consisted of covers of Deep Purple songs from when David Coverdale was in the band. Now, something more about this song, it goes to the verse-chorus arrangement, but then actually the third chorus, Glenn Hughes actually picks up the microphone on this one, and I think he does a very good job. I really do think that David Coverdale, at least in my opinion, is a better lead vocalist than Glenn Hughes, but Glenn Hughes definitely lays it down. And then at the end, we have a phenomenal, very grooving keyboard outro that basically fades out with the song. Everything is on point with Might Just Take Your Life. The vocals, the instrumentation, the keyboards, the rhythm, even though it's starting to get a little bit funky and bluesy, I still love it. And this is just a song that gripped me from the very first time I heard it. So track number 3 is Lay Down, Stay Down. I tried my best there, but yeah, so this was actually the very first track to be completed for the album. This was actually the very first one that they recorded, and it's again got some very funk and rock and roll influences. Sounds more like a traditional rock and roll song that has some funk inserted inside of it, but that's only the mood of the song. It's still a very, very heavy song, just like some of the other songs on here. Now, from what I understand, this is what I read, and apparently this is what David Coverdale said. I'm about to say some words that I don't normally say on this channel, but I am quoting someone, so it'll probably pass the censors. But allegedly, the working title was Shit, Fuck, Cack, Wank. And somehow, some way, it morphed into Lay Down, Stay Down. Okay, there we go. But anyways, like I said, it's very fast, very funky. What I do kind of like about it is right after it's been going fast all throughout the verse, right before the chorus again, it kind of slows down. The band kind of stops for a second, and it just goes, lay down, stay down. But yeah, I gotta love that rhythm, the definitely love it, okay? Very funky song, very well written, very catchy. I have no complaints about Lay Down, Stay Down. Now, we're going to come to something a little bit different on track number 4. We have Sail Away, and this fully embraces the funk elements that the album is planting the seed for, or laying the groundwork for. This has apparently often been compared with Trampled Underfoot by Led Zeppelin, which came out the following year on the Physical Graffiti album. Okay, but yeah, it starts out and it's just kind of fading in a little bit. You can hear the song kind of fading in, then all of a sudden it just goes don 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 don. Dun 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 dun. And yes, like I said, such a funk to it. And it's not like anything the band has written before, but like just like some of the other songs on here, it is so catchy. And it's just something I can sing along with. Like if you're drifting on an empty ocean with no wind to fill your sail, the future your horizon is like searching for the Holy Grail. You feel there's no tomorrow as you look into the water below. It's only your reflection and you still ain't got no place to go. And of course we have time will show and I don't know. Sail away tomorrow, sailing far away. To find, steal, or borrow, but I'll be there someday. And I went a little too far with that than I originally intended. Sorry, guys, but yes, after that chorus, every time the song just starts exploding once again, it goes back into that funk rhythm near the don 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 don. And especially after the second one, I'm guessing it's Jon Lord doing this, but after that chorus, the synthesizer in the background, when the song once again starts going back in that main rhythm, there's a synthesizer he's doing in the background, and it accompanies the mood so well, and it just makes it even more explosive than it would have been without it. So as you probably guessed, guys, side 1 is amazing. I will go ahead and say this right now. Lay Down, Stay Down is my least favorite song from side 1. And if that is my least favorite song, then the side is obviously pretty awesome. Right now, I'm saying Might Just Take Your Life is my favorite. Burn is a definite contender. Sail Away is probably in third place, but tonight, my favorite from side 1 is Might Just Take Your Life. So flipping over to side number 2, which is right there, it all starts off with You Fool No One. Excuse me. And this is more like a boogie rocker, I guess. It really sounds like it at least. Still, again, moving more towards funk and blues, and it really, really rocks. And apparently it was inspired by Ian Paice's drumming pattern, which he allegedly was inspired by John Bonham of Led Zeppelin. Makes total sense again. But yes, we have You Fool No One, waiting to see if I'm gone, so hard to see. If you're taking your chances with me, and yeah, that's the opening little tidbit right there. But after that, it does start to get a little bit fast, and I kind of like that. The contrast here really works well. Sometimes it doesn't, but it really does work well. And again, Coverdale and Hughes are trading off lead vocals, and it totally works, okay? They really got a good thing going. They make a great team on this album, and this song, actually. But yeah, I mean, You Fool No One is considered to be one of the better songs off this album. On the Made in Europe album, which I think was recorded during the Stormbringer tour, it would have had to have been, because it included songs from Stormbringer and Ritchie Blackmore was still with the band. You Fool No One is on there, and it's actually expanded to 16 minutes. And of course, that is where the big jam session is, and yeah, the fact that they put that inside of that song really speaks volumes on how well they thought of it. But yeah, You Fool No One, great song. So now the next one on here, track 6, is What's Going On Here. This is a slower number. Definitely more mid-tempo as compared to some of the other ones. Probably about the same tempo as Might Just Take Your Life. Maybe a little bit slower. Whatever. But yeah, this one is also very blues influenced, and I do like it. The rhythm is very creative. It's very funky. I really like that. It's like and it kind of plods along, but it plods along in a very very catchy way, I guess you could say that. But yeah, I mean, Coverdale and Hughes are once again trading off vocals. Nice touch, I'll say that. And then it all stops, all crescendos, all climaxes, I guess you could say, with the chorus, which is like, I can't stay here, there's something wrong here, what's going on here? Great harmonies, I'll say that. Not with me, but with Coverdale and Hughes. Great harmonies. Love it, okay? However, track number 7, third track from the side, is Mistreated. And this is very much a blues song. It was written by Coverdale and Blackmore, so no one else in the band has a writing credit on this. Allegedly, from what I understand, Blackmore was kind of fooling around with this song back during the Machine Head sessions, and it might have actually, in one form or another, ended up on the Machine Head album, but he held it back. However, when Coverdale joined the band, he started, writing some stuff for it and kind of completed what Blackmore had started. And the song ended up on the Burn album. And I'm really glad it did, because it is a great blues number. It's very slow and it's very haunting and dramatic, but I love it. And that opening guitar, if you know the da-da-dum, 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 it's really aggressive, but at the same time, it feels tragic. And just with these lyrics, you just feel the guy's pain. He's about to rip his heart out because something has happened to him. And it's, like I said, it's very tragic and sad, but I really love Mistreated. And yeah, it all starts off, he goes, I've been mistreated, I've been abused, I've been struck downhearted, baby, I've been so confused. Did my best there, but yeah, I mean, this song, it goes from segment to segment, but it's got such a bluesy, jammy feel to it. Really love it. And this song has been covered a lot. When Ritchie Blackmore formed Rainbow in 1975, they did cover Mistreated in concert. And on the On Stage album, which I have reviewed before, there is a version of it where Ronnie James Dio sings it. Now, when David Coverdale formed Whitesnake, he also covered Mistreated. And there is a version of it on the Live in the Heart of the City album, and it's also on the Purple album, so there's also a Whitesnake version. Apparently, Glenn Hughes, with other projects he was involved with, he also covered it there as well. And it's just amazing that this song is not really considered to be one of the best Deep Purple songs. Well, it's considered to be very good, but it's not like a mainstream, widespread song that everyone knows, like Smoke on the Water or Woman from Tokyo or Highway Star. For a lot of people, it's only the hardcore fanatics that really know a lot about this song. And I just think that's awesome that it's been covered so much. And I gotta say, out of all the live versions I've talked about, and the live version that's on the Made in Europe album, I actually think the studio version is the weakest version. Yeah, who would have thought? I think it sounds so much better live. Like, Dio and Coverdale, they put more soul, they put more emotion into the singing on the live versions, and I think that's a really nice touch, especially when that little segment, I'm going to do the best I can here, where he goes, I've been losing, baby, I've been losing my mind. It just sounds so much better on the live versions. I just feel like more effort was put into it, if that makes any sense. But yeah, I mean, it's a great song. It's a great jam. It only runs about 7 minutes or so, but the live versions really give the bands a lot more opportunity to jam out, and I really, really love this song, okay? And I actually do think Mistreated is my favorite song from side number 2. I know I said that before I reviewed A200, because A200 is just an instrumental. It has a synthesizer overload on it, and it really is kind of a place filler. Now, I have heard some people say they absolutely hate A200. Okay, fair enough. That's your opinion, I understand. I don't really see anything truly wrong with it. I just also don't see anything really that great about it, if that makes any sense. I don't hate it. It's a nice little outro. However, I will say this, if they wanted to put an instrumental on here, there was another instrumental they recorded during these sessions called Coronetis Redig. Did I say? I did not say that correctly. I don't know how you pronounce it, but if you know about this album, you know what I'm talking about. I think that's a better jam instrumental and probably could have taken the place of A200, but I don't mind A200, but I don't hate it, but I also don't love it or anything. But yeah, A200 is definitely the weakest song from side 2 and the weakest song from this album. Now, do I recommend this album? Absolutely, guys. If you're one of those people who's just like, oh no, Ian Gillan's not on this album. Oh no, this isn't the Mark II lineup. I'm not going to listen to it. Guys, you really need to hear it because it is great, okay? It is. I actually rank this 4th in my Deep Purple album ranking. I put it ahead of Who Do We Think We Are. It's that good. It is right up there with that classic Mark II stuff, and for that, I do recommend this album, and it's at one of my all-time favorites. So anyways, thank you all very much for joining me tonight on Album Rant. As for what I'm doing next time, I'm at a loss for words. But until then, have a very pleasant evening.